A gentleman in this room, not so long ago, told me this. This camera represents a massive evolution in the process of digital cameras. The digital world was a wonderful breakthrough for me. I regard this as the camera that really takes it away from the film world entirely. Film never ever got to 5,000 ASA. And the gentleman sitting in the front here told me that. I'd now like to introduce Don. I've done enough talking. I've got a ton of slides. If you want to talk about some other things later, we can do that. But I want to sort of devote as much of the night as we can to Don. Want to try and keep this very informal. If you've got any questions, just sing out. Don will talk warts and all about the camera, what worked, what didn't work, what broke, what we fixed, all that sort of thing. So please ask away. And Don, I'll also get you to tell everyone a little bit about how it came to be and Sasha's involvement as well, if I can. Thank you very much.
Whoa. Well, first thing I want to tell you is Panasonic has given me nothing. I'm not in their pay. They haven't given me. I've probably had a couple of good dinners. I'll confess to that. But that was after we used the camera, I must admit. So really, as I've said to them, the day somebody brings out a better camera, bye-bye Panasonic. It's I started an involvement with this camera through Sasha. Sasha and I have had a long relationship, goes back to a film where he was an intern in Maine, a film called, what was it? A Man Without a Face. Mel Gibson directing. Anyway, and Sasha's a wannabe director, has been trying for years with one script. He's now onto his second main script, and I think we've got a good chance of one day making a film out of that. He also is technically inclined and shoots material on his own bat. He came to me and he said, oh, look, I think I found the camera we might shoot on our, I won't say mythical movie, but proposed movie. I sort of said ho-hum, and then he arranged a sort of a test up in my house at McMaster's Beach. And so we managed to get a red and Alexa?
The first one was just the red.
Just the red. We just had a red. Now, to go back a bit, I've shot 3 movies, and the only other digital camera I've used is red. I used red on Mental, which was the first one. I got the camera on a Thursday and we shot on the Monday. I hadn't really seen a digital camera before then, but the assistant knew a little bit about it. Absolutely no qualms, worries or concerns or difficulties of transitioning from film, and I've shot a lot of film, to this digital camera. Very, very quickly I realised that the digital camera was a precise instrument, and I'd been dealing with a very, very imprecise instrument in the form of film for a long, long time. The variations in stock reduced over the years. Probably the variations in laboratories increased over the years, and really, you were. It's amazing when I look back and see the movies, the results we got with just having basically no control over the precision of the processing of the result, and that when we finally got to the timing, you only had 3 levers to pull. I look down at the desk now and they go on for acres of these knobs that people are grabbing and twisting and screwing and pushing up and down all over the place to great effect. And how we made those movies, it amazes me. I occasionally get an old movie of mine out, and particularly now there's a Blu-ray around, they're worth looking at. And I'm still flabbergasted at the results we got on film. But that's all past, or it has for me. I'm now into the digital world. On the red worked, so I just kept using it on the next couple of films. And then this came up. We checked the red against it, and in my living room, we took it down to the beach, shot some beach stuff. I'm based, and then of course this 5,000 ASA question came up, and of course I'm immediately thinking, well, this is going to be good but shitty, I'm actually looking in my living room, and we had 3 candles, and somebody walked in. I've got a reasonably big living room, about the size of this place, and somebody walked in the back and through, and I'm there, and I look back at the monitor, and I'm seeing far more on the monitor than I'm seeing with my eye, and of course in the red, you at 5,000 you could, amongst the grain, see this gentleman, wander in vaguely. You got glimpses of him. With this camera, I was beginning to see actual detail on the wall. I got up and looked at the monitor. I couldn't see any noise in the monitor, and I'm thinking, what's the joke here? What's the catch? What's going to happen? And based on that, we then set up at Panavision a 4-way test, because it really did excite me, I must admit. The potential of this camera hit me like a hammer. And then I went in and to Panavision, and we got the Sony.
It was a.
He's got a memory, you see.
The Sony 55, the red Epic Dragon, the Arri Alexa XT, and then this thing. So, yeah. And the idea was that first of all, when you start doing these tests, it's like opening a can of worms, and the more answers we got, the more questions we wanted to ask. And the other thing is seeing one image after the other. Both myself and Don thought, well, wouldn't it be good to see them on the same screen at the same time? So what we decided to do, and we discussed with Sound Firm in Melbourne, was to do a 4x4K split where we cut out the center 2K of each camera and stick it in. So it was a 1-to-1 pixel ratio 4-way split. So we could basically sit there and look at all cameras on the same screen at the same time, rather than see one and then see the next one and try and remember what we saw. So,
yeah. Now the result of that test was, there was lots of debate. At 800 ASA, we were wandering around saying, "Oh, the Arri looks good there. The red's working well there." Sony's the Sony's not good there, but always, it was this marginal at 800, which is, and the Vericam, most times, I think because we wanted it to, but maybe because it seemed to hold its own, or be probably even better than the other 3 cameras. We shot all these tests at their close enough to their maximum speed, and we also did a shot on this thing where we progressed this camera through from 800 to 16 to 3200, and it was just as shitty as all the other cameras that we processed through the ASA progression.
That's the technical term.
Yeah, they were. I mean, they all were grainy, and they were, except for an exceptional scene, you couldn't use them in a movie. You had to have some exceptional reason to explain to the audience why this film, and that could be a real dirty street scene or something like that, and you get away with that. But they were very much degraded films until this camera goes onto its second natural speed of 5,000, and it just goes click. It really clicks back very, very close. And this is the thing that I believe gives this camera the edge that, and the reason I used it on the next film I did was you could have this 5000 ASA, and I'm going into a low budget feature film and lots of difficulties. And one of the tests I did was I actually sat in a lounge chair and got the camera rolling at 800 and then just did a direct cut to 5000 and switched. And then we whizzed that off to sound film, we had a lot of cooperation from people, and they immediately transferred, put up, and up on the screen, and it was just swapping. And on the big screen, 4K, you couldn't see on the screen any jump between colour, grayscale, or grain on the screen between 800 and 5000. And that to me was just amazing. I said to the guys behind the desk, can you see any difference? And they said, well, if we tweak it a bit, we can actually find a little difference. They said, but on the screen, sitting here, we cannot see any difference between the two. And then everyone said, well, if we, and this is all the black magic they go through, if we took the degraining process through it, and we think we could even make it better. And I said, well, so through this film that I just shot, I would endlessly change to ASA. I'd be shooting a scene at 800, which I normally did because there's still a certain reluctance to hang out and start shooting 5000 ASA on a feature film. I mean, there's all the years of experience fight you to stop doing that. But I'd have a 3-shot, very simple 3-shot. Two people would be in focus, and the third one would be out of focus. And you didn't want to use focus as a depth thing. You really want to have these 3 people equal in performance and all the rest of it. And there was no way to increase the lighting. So you just grab the knob, bang on. It's 2.6 stops exactly. And it would always seem to be enough to just drag it from 4 to up to where it was. And everything was crystal sharp. The shot Sash is talking about was one of the really interesting exercises. The director wanted this street scene in a Melbourne suburb filled with Muslim people in costume. It's just a street scene, and we're up on a high tripod looking away down the sidewalk on the long end of the zoom. It wasn't that bright a day, but there in under the street, I'd say the stop was about maybe 8, and of course these 3 are walking on with dialogue, and there was no way at 8 that we'd have any chance of getting him in focus. So just whack it on. It's almost 22 by the time we put the 800, and the whole scene is perfect. I've seen a cut of the film in the last week or so, and all that stuff you just don't see it. There's no interference. Everything's sharp. In actual fact, it's probably one of the cheapest films I've made in years and years and years. There isn't an out of focus shot in the whole damn thing because we just had this facility. One shot, I did it as a joke because the moon was up and there was cloud. So we then came down on a car park outside a mosque, which we'd lit. That was all part of it. And anyway, so we start on the moon and wide open, I'd say 2 or something like that, and shoot. And the moon is actually surrounded by a blue ring of clouds lit by the moon. As we tilt down over the city, the clouds change to amber because they're now lit by the uplight from the city. And we came down and it started pulling stops like crazy. We ended up about 8 on the car park, which I'd overlit for general shooting. And I thought, this shot's never going to be in the movie, and the director's using it. It's I shot alternatives, but he decided that's the one he wants to use. So it really has been an amazing eye-opener to me. And once again, it's a tool. The camera's just a tool, like a pick or a shovel or anything else to do a job. And for me, this was the best tool available at the hardware shop at that time. And if somebody else brings out a better tool, I'll grab that one. I mean, that's the great part of the system of renting that we've got. That means you can have the best that's available. The cost of that sort of stuff doesn't matter that much, even in a very low budget. So it's, and we did get a little help, I think, but I don't know anything about that. Yeah, any questions? Goodness me.
Did you go to 2K?
Bevan?
Did you go for 2K option at any stage? You're shooting 2K?
No, we didn't. We didn't have to, did we? No.
It's shot 4K, but for 2K, it's a 2K, going to be a 2K DCP.
Yeah.
Will be 2K.
And of course, the director's up there doing what they all do now, and as I told them when we were shooting, particularly with a cheap film, we'd get the mid shot, and he'd say, "Well, what about the close up?" I said, "Well, you got it," you know. And the director's sort of been a bit amazed at the flexibility that's given him. And it really did mean that you could do that mid shot, and you didn't have to waste the time, money, and energy if you got a great performance for the closer shot. Yes.
Is it got the ability to dial it back to 50 ASA for exterior or anything like that, or is it just 800 or 5000?
You can dial up.
Yeah,
Go
no,
on,
like I say,
tell them.
you've got the two bases, and one of the firmware upgrades just recently was the ability to ISO down. So prior to 3 or 4 months ago, with one of the upgrades, you just ISO up from 800 up to 5000. Obviously the noise would increase, but now we can ISO down, so you can start off on the 5000 base and then stop down to 4000, and it's a beautiful 4000. So just that ability to go up and down, you can go down from 800, down from 5000, is a fantastic flexibility, and that wasn't in the camera when Don shot Ali's.
It's got a wonderful little ND wheel here.
Oh, okay.
You just.
Don, what doesn't the camera do that you want it to do?
Quick, someone get that guy out of here.
I've never thought about that. You're thankful for such mercies. How about 10,000 ASA? No. I mean, and of course, even with the 5,000 ASA, I shot a couple of major scenes inside our mosque, which was a set inside a hall. I shot the whole scene at 5,000 ASA, probably 15 minutes of the movie. But you still have to light. You still have to develop texture. I mean, it's not, you just don't turn the lights on, and because you've got an image, you can shoot it, obviously. Or you can do that, but you won't survive long in the business. You've still got to be creative with your lighting, but you do have to learn to bring it. You do have to learn to bring it all down, and it's a learning process of how to handle this thing. And if I had enough light, and if I'm on a major set, I would still basically light to my old, the basic thing that I was brought up on, like the last 20, 30 years or so, a 500 ASA at about 284. And, you know, I'd still light to those sort of level for the digital camera. If I had the money and that was the situation. Yeah.
Just, you should talk about, it was a reduction of heat as well, being able to shoot the interior mosque at 5,000.
Oh yeah, on Ender's Game, and this is another film, massive sets all enclosed and built in tight. In Florida, lots of heat problems. We used all LED lighting, and that kept the heat down. In this set, we were in this small room, no air conditioning because of the sound, and if we had to light that to 800 ASA at about 4, it would have become an incredible hot, stinking place. As it was, there was very minimal discomfort during the whole shoot because we just managed to reduce the lighting by about a factor of a fifth. Yeah. Yeah.
No, I'm just wondering about the dynamic range off the top end for a 5,000 ASA camera shooting day interiors in there. The windows must have been extraordinarily hot, even at 16.
I don't know whether I shot any day interior exterior work at 5,000, but I couldn't detect any change in the brightness range. Now, it's something I didn't test severely. It's a good point actually, but if there was a difference in lighting in response between the two, it would actually show up on those shots I'd done. You know, because there was a practical light in the thing, and you know, it's going just flick one after the other, and you couldn't see at the highlights of that light any perceptible change.
No highlights or anything?
No, nothing. But I haven't carried out a severe test at that. I mean, once you start tests, you realise you're on the road to madness. I mean, if you really, if this testing equipment is, and I kept on telling Sasha this. I said, you've got to stop. At some point, you've just got to convince yourself and then get on with it. Tests will drive you crazy. I've said this, and probably I'll get drummed out of the regiment, but at this age it doesn't matter anymore. You could give me a Red, an Alexa, the best of all of them, this camera, a nicely lit interior, and a dramatically lit interior, and I could get the 3 cameras one after the other, take the shot, and I could go off to with a good colour timer, and I could produce any shot you wanted from any of those 3 cameras that you couldn't tell the difference. That's what I believe. I would like to be proved wrong on that, but it's what I really do believe, that there is just this. Technically, they all come from a very, very similar source. They've all got to pretend that they're different because that's a commercial business. But in truth, they're incredibly very, very close to each other. And with the tools that we've got, we can drag the small variations that exist across all those cameras and get the result that you want. So that's not what the camera makers want to hear, but it's what I truly believe at this stage of my career.
So, Don, are you talking then about ergonomics? What made you favour this?
Yeah, the ergonomics is to pick a big assistant. Yeah, thank goodness my carrying days are over. Well, first of all, the Steadicam guy on the movie was also the main operator, and I said, well, how's this going to go? And he said, he ran off to Panavision day before. He said, I was there for half an hour, threw it on the rig, and Matt said he liked it. He said he likes the weight of it. He said it may be a little bit heavier than the lightweight units, but he said he in his book, he preferred the mass of the bigger camera, and he certainly did throw it around, and it presented no problem. It's incredibly rugged. It is really rugged. I don't think I had good assistance, so it wasn't tested in that way. We had one minor problem, which with a filter, which we think was maybe our doing, but we'll never confess to it. And they it meant there was a glitch on the top of the frame, and of course what we did, because we were shooting 35 Super 35 result, we just dragged the whole lot down, reframed it down, and kept working until they gave us another camera. So even though there was little damage on the filter, we just avoided that in the area we were using. So that was the only glitch we had in the whole thing, and they took it away and removed the filter, and everyone lived happily ever after.
Can I just add, Panavision were quite stunning in terms of their support.
They were.
On our list. And just one note, I mean, the cameras were supplied by Panavision. We didn't supply any here. It wasn't a Panasonic sponsored shoot as such. It was something between Matchbox and Panavision. I was along for the ride. It was a fantastic ride.
Yeah, it was a very minor thing. But I mean, it was just, that was the only thing that went wrong in the whole bloody shoot.